In our life together as a community, today is one of those special days that occur throughout the year. And today is the annual ingathering after we've gone all different ways during the summer, and water communion service. So when people return to a community after a growth experience, after the experiences of life, they aren't the same. And as a result, this community isn't the same. When newcomers arrive for the first time, bringing their own history and experiences, their presence contributes to the change and development of this community. Each one of us brings unique gifts to First Unitarian Church. And today, we'll have 3 opportunities to pour water into a common vessel. The stations are at the back on either side and in the front on either side. And this symbolizes the experiences we've had in the summer, and the intermingling is the growth that those experiences bring to this community. The intermingled water symbolizes that deepening and growth that we experience when we're on the river of life, the joyous celebration, painful struggle, and growth, insight, and transformation. Now, you may have noticed that on your order of service there is a fish sticky note. And I hope you have something to write with. The ushers do have pencils if you need them. Because during the centering music, which the choir will sing for us in just a moment, we want you to write down in just a word or phrase one or more of the gifts you bring to this community. The gifts that you bring to this community. Some people might be drawn to mention a volunteer experience or commitment. Others might want to mention character traits, compassion, dedication, humor, love, courage, commitment, gratitude. And if you're a first-time visitor, perhaps you bring curiosity or longing or something that's truly your own. So please write that on your fish. And when you finish, pass the fish to the aisle, and the ushers will collect them as our centering music ends. And later in this celebration, we'll read for you some of those gifts that you bring to this community. And all of the fish will eventually be posted on the river display that's at the front. Now let's center ourselves as we enter into a time of worship. Worship from the Old English word meaning to consider what is worthy, what brings meaning and purpose to our lives. May the sound and vibration of this bell help each one of us to find that center. We gather together, some for the first time, after a summer of journeys near and far. Like water poured into a common bowl, in this community we mingle our lives, today newly refreshed from summer's relaxation and informed by summer's challenges. Today, as we pour out water together, think about what that water represents, both in terms of individual experiences over the summer and in our life together as a congregation. Over the course of the year, we will continue, each in our own way, to journey along the river of life as we share our individual gifts in this beloved community. And as we begin this year together, during this time of transition, the poem Crossing a Creek by Martha Courteau invites us to consider the role of faith and courage in our life's journey. Crossing a creek requires 3 things: a certain serenity of mind, bare feet, and a sure trust that the snake we know slides silently underwater just beyond our vision will choose to ignore the flesh that cuts through its territory, and we will pass through. All crossings are hard, whether creeks, mountains, or into other lives. And we must always believe in the snakes at our feet, and we must practice believing that we will come through.
Rivers. The poet Langston Hughes wrote about rivers. He said, "I've known rivers. I've known rivers ancient as the world and older than the flow of human blood and human veins. My soul has grown deep like rivers. I bathed in the Euphrates when dawns were young. I built my hut near the Congo, and it lulled me to sleep. I looked upon the Nile and raised the pyramids above it. I heard the singing of the Mississippi when Abe Lincoln went down to New Orleans, and I've seen its muddy bosom turn all golden in the sunset. I've known rivers, ancient, dusky rivers. My soul has grown deep like rivers." Rivers bring life to many different places. Farmers depend on them, so do animals, so do people. Rivers are deep and powerful. Think about your summer. Did any of you do any growing or learning or anything that made your soul a little deeper like a river? Did you experience something that carried you along to a different place? Let's take a moment to reflect quietly on personal growth and the spiritual deepening we've experienced this last season. As our souls deepen, we become increasingly able to offer gifts of our spirit to our loved ones, our acquaintances, our world. Now we share aloud some of the gifts you bring to our beloved faith community. So as we deepen in our own experiences and our own beings and our souls, we also find the gifts that we share become more abundant and more accessible to us. And so we share now some of the gifts that you have brought on your own rivers of life into this community together. Thoughtful communication and vulnerability.
Commitment to compassion.
Friendship, love, and community.
Friendliness, willingness to try.
Joyful living.
Enthusiasm.
Compassion.
Longing for community.
Fun, enthusiasm, friendship, love, and leadership.
Thirst for spirituality.
One fish in the sea, joining meaning to make our family.
Experience.
Fixing things.
UU law. Passionate, youth, friends.
Humor. Long life experiences. Financial gifts. Compassion.
Passion.
Love of nature.
Experience and commitment.
Love and gratitude for the commitment to this church.
Compassion.
Empathy.
Thank you for sharing your gifts with our community. as Bruce plays music now that evokes
have to
river
watch you.
waters. Those of you who have felt your soul deepen this summer, please walk silently to one of the 4 water pouring stations to pour some water into the bowl. There are 2 in the front and 2 in the back. We'll begin in just a moment. And just to know, during the service, there are 2 other opportunities to pour water if they speak to you more. The next one represents still waters, and the third will be turbulent waters. So please choose which one matches your experience over the last year. You may also signal to an usher if you would like help so that you can pour some water into a container at your seat or ask someone to pour some water for you so that you can be a part of our sharing together. So let us now, as the music begins, move quietly and pour reverently.
Lakes. The still, clear surface of a lake reflects the sky, the trees, the sun. A lake invites us into quiet. Its cool depths are silent. When we step into a lake, the still waters surround and enfold us like a blessing. When we launch our boats, the depths press upward to support and lift them. This summer, have you had a new insight or experience that blessed your days or lifted your heart spirits? Let's take a moment to reflect quietly on the stillness and its blessings. While lakes may appear separate from one another, water is always moving from one form or place to another. Water always remains connected to water. Our connections are rich and varied as we see the gifts each of us brings to this community we share. Music, service, and love.
Happiness.
Artists from the community.
Music.
Some skepticism.
Commitment.
Love. We seem to have put all of the gifts onto the display. The ones that were in here have been empty. Could someone hand us a few so that we can share them with you? Thank you.
Thank you. They swam away. They were just ready to be used.
Commitment.
Curiosity.
Gratitude for this church.
More skepticism.
Kind heart and baking talents.
Song.
Creativity.
Compassion.
Friendship, love, and community.
Drive, give, love, relationships.
Wonderment.
Music. Humor.
More compassion.
Experience.
Love of nature.
Now, our family that was putting these on the display, you could add these because we read them. And we have still some fish up here that we haven't read. And now, Terry.
As Bruce plays, those of you who have felt stillness bless your spirit this summer, please walk silently to a water station and pour some water into the bowl. If you prefer, signal an usher who will bring lake water to your seat so you can pour water while remaining seated. Please walk quietly and pour reverently.
Oceans. All life emerged from the ocean. The ocean's waves come crashing into the shore. And then the tide pulls water out again in a steady rhythm. Oceans are broad and deep. In many places we can't see the bottom. Huge creatures live in the ocean. Whales and eels and strange-looking fish. The sea can be placid and calm or rough. And terrifying. At the ocean's edge, the waves crash and pound in turbulent rhythm. Life emerged from the ocean. Its salt is in our blood. It's in our tears. This summer, for some of us, may have been rough or terrifying or simply salty with tears. So now, let us bring to mind those who have felt the turmoil and challenges of turbulent waters, those who struggle, those who mourn, and especially those who have lost much to storm, flood, ocean, and earthquake. The ocean can be beautiful even though it has tremendous power when it strikes the shore. Let us seek to find the beauty in life even through its challenges, even though its challenges may sometimes bring us to tears. Now we enter into a time of deeper reflection. May we embrace life fully with its beauty, its challenges, its turbulence, and its tears. And now we read again some of the gifts that you bring to this congregation, the gifts that you share with us.
Compassion and gratitude.
Desire to learn and grow.
Time.
Commitment to compassionate choices.
Being truer to who you are.
Volunteering with FEDS and Family Promise.
Happiness.
Commitment.
Adventurous spirit.
Enthusiasm.
Volunteering, unsolicited advice and support.
Positivity through humor.
Optimism.
Experience and commitment.
Welcoming congregation, passionate, youth-focused.
Organization and a can-do attitude.
Creativity.
Love.
Me.
Love and gratitude for and commitment to this church.
Music.
Open-minded.
Gratitude for this church commitments and joy for the gifts that I've been blessed with.
I believe this is from a child who says, I've gone here most of my life.
Joy.
Creativity and music.
Compassion.
Sleeping.
Commitment.
And now, in a moment as Bruce plays, those of us who have felt challenges, turbulence, or tears stretch our spirits this summer are invited to walk silently to a water station and pour some water into the bowl. And remember, you can signal someone or ask someone for help if you feel it's better to remain seated. If there's anyone who hasn't yet poured, this is our final pouring, the pouring of the turbulent waters. We invite you to pour water from the pitcher to honor whatever experiences and gifts you bring to this community. Please walk quietly and pour reverently.
Floods and hurricanes in Southeast Asia and the Atlantic have recently affected about 50 million people. I find numbers like that hard to imagine. I know someone had said during the Holocaust, imagine one person's story and then that happening 3 million times. So if we imagine the devastation of one family, one person, happening 50 million times, the grief and the trauma facing our world population is expansive. There are nations and people experiencing loss of life, loss of loved ones, loss of homes and cropland, loss of means for making money or access to safe drinking water. Water shapes life in its presence, in its absence, in its moving, and in its abundance. And so do we, in our presence, in our absence, in our moving, and in our sense of abundance. Our offering today will go to the Hurricane Harvey Recovery Fund, a joint effort by the Unitarian Universalist Association and the Unitarian Universalist Service Committee. Half of the funds will support the UU Service Committee's grassroots partners, community partners in Texas, who serve populations who are traditionally left out of mainstream response efforts. These are people who may not be able to access relief services, including immigrant families, young mothers, and their children. The other half of those funds will support the Unitarian Universalist congregations and members of those congregations most affected by the storm. We are mindful of the world's need each Sunday when we make an offering from the bounty we are blessed to enjoy. We give not only from a spirit of generosity, but also in recognition of our covenant to continue the work of justice, love, and compassion that we undertake together here as a congregation.
The 4 bowls into which we have poured water are filled now with water, symbolizing 3 sources for the water that brings us life. These bowls also symbolize 3 different types of personal and emotional experiences that life brings to us. Water. It's a simple substance that today represents the complexity and depth of our lives and of our life together as a faith community. In humility and gratitude, let us acknowledge the power, the necessity, and the splendor of water. And now our worship leaders will bring to the center of this community the water that everyone has shared from rivers, lakes, and oceans, storms, floods. And we will mingle this water. Come on up and pour. pour it into the bowl. Let this bowl of shared water remind us that we are connected to each other by love and need and hope. The safety and well-being of this community and the larger world depend on the goodwill and dedicated efforts of each of us. And now we bless this water, for all sources of water, for all who poured, and for those who join visibly and invisibly in our act of community this morning. May we be aware and may we be grateful.